This is Calvin Castine. That handsome-looking chap you see on the screen is Mr. William Herzog. I'm probably off the screen right now as we're doing this. We're in the offices of Paquette Insurance. But we're not here to talk insurance with Bill Herzog. We're here to talk about another hat that he wears, and that is as?
Currently, I'm the president of the Northern Tier Chamber of Commerce, which encompasses the towns of Champlain, Chazy, and Moores.
And of course, the village of Rouse's Point is included in the town of Champlain. And
exactly, yes.
Most of us watching know that, but there's surprisingly how many people don't outside the area don't realize that. How long have you been president of the chamber, Bill?
I've been president since October of '97, Calvin.
So this is your first term of many to come?
That remains to be seen. We'll go one term at a time.
I know your predecessor, Gary Favreau, had one term was all he wanted.
One term, I think, was enough for Gary. But so far, so good. We got a great board and a lot of helping hands with the board, and so far things are going real well.
As you know, Bill, for the past, I don't know, you probably know better than I do. I'm going to guess 20-plus years, there's been a big winter carnival in the Northern Tier, sponsored by the Chamber. And one of the highlights of that has always been the King and Queen. And last year, much to my delight and so many other people, the Chamber honored Bob and Teresa Venn, not knowing that in a few months Bob would die. And I was thinking many times between Bob's death in June and in the recent days how sad it was going to be that the King would not be there to pass his crown along. And you guys in the chamber have taken a step that I think Bob would have been very, very pleased with. So tell us what's happening this year with the Chamber of Commerce Ball.
Okay, well, this is the 20th annual Winter Carnival that the Northern Tier Chamber has been involved with. And as you mentioned, Calvin, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, the Winter Carnival was initially scheduled from February 6th to 22nd. And because of the storm, people just trying to get their lives back together, we realized that there was just no way that we could undertake this for that time frame. So the chamber was faced with a decision: should we cancel it altogether? Should we have it? Should we postpone it? So after great discussion, we decided that people were looking for a break. People were getting back in order, and we thought it would be a nice outlet for people to actually go through with this. So we decided the best thing to do would be to postpone it for 2 weeks. So starting February 20th through March 8th will be the 20th annual. Generally, the keynote event of the Winter Carnival has been the Winter Carnival Ball, where we, as you mentioned, we honored the King and Queen, and we had a very fitting King and Queen last year, as you've already touched on, Bob and Teresa Venn. This year, though, the directors of the chamber were perplexed in who would be the King and Queen. We got several nominations for people, but it was hard for us to pick out one King and Queen when there is really so much royalty around us throughout this storm. So what the chamber has decided to do is put on a reception for the volunteers in the Northern Tier that helped so many of us get through this storm. As far as volunteers, the chamber has decided to key on the various fire departments within the Northern Tiers area and the organizations that were able to set up shelters to house people while they were having electricity restored and heat restored to their homes so they could go back.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt you a moment because we're talking the Northern Tier, and this show will be shown throughout the Northern Tier, but that Northern Tier that this cable show is going to be shown in includes a couple of communities that the chamber is not active in, and that being Altona and Ellenburg, and also the Cherubusco area. So there are some fire departments, some volunteers in our viewing area who unfortunately are not being honored here directly, because the chamber is going to serve and you got to put a stop somewhere, and you're going to serve your
Exactly,
area.
exactly. I mean, that was, that was brought to our attention, and as you've mentioned, our bylaws indicate that our area is the town of Champlain, Chazy, and Moores, and we just had to take a stand, and we realized that there are volunteer fire departments throughout the 6-county area that were affected by this storm. And hopefully someone in those areas can pick up the ball and do something to honor these people. I mean, I guess in spirit we're kind of honoring all these people, but we can only handle, as far as numbers, the people that, like I said, that fall within our geographical territory, which are those 3 towns.
Okay, now obviously the chamber didn't have all kinds of money in a vault somewhere to pay for all this.
We have a pretty tight budget. We rely pretty much on our membership dues to make the chamber work, and I think it's time we might have to see an increase so we can do more things. But no, what we did was, knowing that we didn't have a great budget to work with, we decided that what we were going to do was approach some local organizations, some local and some not so local, to see if we could perhaps get some of these people to put up some money and help us underwrite this thing. And we were successful in doing so. We've had 7 organizations that have stepped up and are throwing in a decent sum of money so we can put this on. Again, we're doing this for the volunteers, so our thought, we couldn't with a good heart ask the volunteers to come to something in their honor and then ask them to give us, $5 or $6 at the door to pay for the entertainment, some awards and some refreshments that we're going to provide to them. So with the help of the sponsors, we're able to do this.
Okay, I know very well one of the sponsors as the incoming president of the Woodmen of the World Lodge 462. I'm aware that our local Woodmen Lodge is one of the 7 sponsors. Can you tell us who they are before we forget and move on to something else?
Sure. I'll give these to you in alphabetical order, Calvin.
Oh, Woodman's going to be close to the end then.
Woodman is not at the end, though.
Not close, though.
And I'm sure many of our viewers can guess who after WO may fall. The Champlain Rouse's Point Rotary is the first. The Champlain Telephone Company, Delagar, located in Rouse's Point, NYSEG, we're all familiar with NYSEG, the Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce, Woodmen of the World, Lodge number 462, as Calvin has already touched on, and Wyeth-Ayers Laboratories in Rouse's Point.
Now, credit belongs to all these organizations, but when I look at that list and I see Champlain Telephone Company, with the expenses they've had in getting the phone service back up in record time, it's phenomenal that they would do a gesture like this. NYSEG, of course, same thing there. They've spent oodles of money, I'm sure, getting electricity back up, and Wyeth-Ayers has an employer, and I'm sure maybe Delagar, I'm not aware of what Delagar did. I did talk to Ralph Ware, but I didn't talk specifically. It was early in the storm about what his company was doing for the employees, but I know what, as a person whose wife works at Wyeth-Ayers, they were fabulous to their employees, and they were fabulous to the community as far as paying the volunteers to be out there. So this is a great extra effort from these different groups. And as a Woodman, I know that the Woodman National Office has been up here helping out our members, but this here, the sponsorship of this is coming from directly from our home office, our local lodge, I should say.
Yeah, as you've mentioned, Calvin, I mean, this is just a testament to the, to the commitment of the northern tier of these organizations, have.
Are you in the Rotary?
Yes, I am. I'm a
Yeah,
member of the,
I know you guys don't have a big budget either.
No, we don't. No, we don't. And and just to touch on that for a second, again, they are showing quite a commitment to this area with the devastating loss that NYSEG and Champlain Telephone went through. I mean, that pretty much says it all. And this is interesting because, we're talking about supporters from one end of the spectrum based to the other. With the Woodmen of the World Lodge 462, that is just one lodge, one part of a large entity that is pulling the money out of their pocket. They're not going back to their corporate headquarters and asking for a check to help support this. So you're dealing with that end of the spectrum, with the small Rotary chapter, all the way up to the multi-million-dollar corporations like Wyeth-Ayers, American Home Products, NYSEG. So it's quite an array of sponsors, and we're very pleased to have had them step forward, and they were all very good about this. There was no pulling teeth with this. It was a simple question, a brief explanation of what we were doing, and they were all more than happy to step up and go to bat for us.
Okay, I don't think maybe we mentioned it and I wasn't paying close enough attention, but have you given the when and where this is all taking place?
Yeah, this is going to be taking place at the VFW Lodge number 1418, located between Champlain and Moores, on February 21st. It's a Saturday evening. It will be the second day of the actual Winter Carnival, and this will be happening from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Now, what's going to happen now? Let me first of all say, when I heard about this, the first thought that came to my mind was maybe because of the enormous number of people that could end up deciding to go, it might have been an idea to wait till summer months and try to hold it at the Rouse's Point Rec Center, that probably the only place in the area that could hold such a crowd. Was there any thought given to holding off, or did you want to get out there and do it now?
To tell you the truth, Calvin, there was no thought in holding off. We just wanted to get out and do this because, again, the major question was, how do we come up with a king and queen for the Winter Carnival Ball? And we had every intention of carrying on as we had done the past, 19 years. But we were perplexed with this and decided that, again, that there were so many people that did so much for each other that there was just no other way to address this other than this. We wanted to do it while the irons were hot, while people, still had the storm back in their minds. I'm sure there are people out there that are still recovering in some, shape, manner, or form, from this.
Oh, well, speaking personally,
Calvin personally.
I had some flooding this morning that came because the ice had rerouted the melting route that it normally took, and all of a sudden I was stuck with a couple inches of water where I'd never had water before, and it caused me these big problems this morning. So this is going to be an ongoing problem for people till maybe a year from now. People might still be suffering, just as it was with the flood.
Yeah, and I can tell you from an insurance standpoint, not that we're here to talk about that, but essentially any claim that's been filed with anybody's companies, especially homeowners, the companies are just leaving these things open because there are damages that will just not be noticed until spring. Weight of ice and snow, ice backup, things of that nature. So, this is going to be an ongoing thing, and so like I said, we wanted to strike while the iron was hot, and really thank these people for everything they've done.
How many are you anticipating?
Well, that's an interesting question, Calvin. We did a poll of each of the various organizations that this is centered around, and we have heard on average that there are generally 40 to 45 volunteer firefighters associated with each of the 5 fire departments that fall within our geographical area. We are opening this up to their spouses because obviously these guys had to have support, when they got home. There was someone there holding things together.
These guys and gals.
Guys and gals, well, we're going to talk about that. The women's auxiliaries associated with the various departments, we have mentioned that to them as well as there were 3 organizations in the northern tier distinct from the fire departments that opened up shelters. That would be the American Legion in Champlain, the American Legion in Rouse's Point, the Knights of Columbus in Rouse's Point. There were shelters done in conjunction with some of the fire departments at their physical location. I know in Moores that they had a shelter that I believe the Ladies Auxiliary was handling, and I've been told that in West Shazy they had also set up a shelter in their physical location.
Yeah, in Moores they'd moved it to the Catechetical Center next to St. Joseph's Church. And I can't remember, I know Shazy ended up sending theirs to West Shazy because of, just overwhelming there. And I'm not sure if they ended up moving anywhere after they were in the West Shazy Fire Department. Although I did talk to the fire chief there. I've got about 5 hours of interviews, and I can't remember everything everybody told me at this point.
But back to your initial question, the question was, how many are we anticipating? Mm-hmm. Again, we got a rough feeling for how many volunteers there were, how many, so we double that for spouses. Give an example, the Village of Champlain was kind enough to drop off a list of the volunteers that the number of women involved with the Women's Auxiliary, as well as, and this is an important thing that we don't want to leave out, as well as the civilian volunteers, of which just from the Village of Champlain's list, they were numerous. And you know, the civilians played a very important role in this. I know that you know, we had people coming to our house to take a shower here and there that were, you know, without hot water for 3 weeks. You know, there were people out there delivering water, delivering candles. I mean, driving people to the Grand Union who couldn't get their car out of their driveway because there was a tree in front of it.
One of the first things I looked at when I looked at that list from the Village of Champlain was whether or not Jim Robbins' name was on there, because I know I came back home from a mission somewhere and during the first couple of days, and one of my sons said that Jim Robbins had been there, and I tracked him down. He was maybe a mile from my house when I caught up with him, and he was volunteering his time, going door to door to see if people needed food. He was going, you know, getting stuff from the shelter to deliver to them. And this is a person who's not a fireman that I am aware of, and I'm sure there are dozens and maybe hundreds of people just like that. This is one I was aware of, so I just wanted to make sure that that type of person would be recognized in this. Now, how are you, outside of this and newspapers, you won't be sending all these people a personal invitation, will you?
No, what we did, Calvin, was we went to the 8 organizations that are the core of, you know, the groups that we're honoring, the 5 fire departments as well as the 3 shelters that I mentioned earlier. We prepared a letter feeling that they would be most in sync with, you know, what civilians help them, who was around helping, and we've asked them to get back to us with a written list of those people so we can provide the VFW with a more accurate head count, so we can make the, you know, the appropriate, you know, food orders and such, you know, to pull this thing off. And we're hoping that we'll hear back from them, you know, by, I believe, Wednesday the 17th, and the food will be ordered on Friday for the following night. So, you know, as long as they can get back to us prior to Friday, we should be able to account for all those that want to come. Our biggest fear is that inevitably someone will slip through the cracks. I know Bob Sullivan, the superintendent of public works here for the Village of Champlain, came in here one day on another matter and he just brought up a story about a gentleman and his wife that just appeared from Ticonderoga with chainsaws in the back of his truck. The guy and his wife cut trees, limbs for 2 days straight. They never asked for a thing, and the guy blew out pretty much on the same breeze he blew in on. And you know, maybe we'll never hear from this guy again. So I mean, you know, that's what we're hoping. We're hoping that somehow the numbers can get back to us. How are we going to handle the large numbers? Well, unfortunately, there's not a complex in this area that could hold a great deal of people. They had the Republican dinner at the Civic Center, but they're playing hockey there now. So we selected the VFW because that was deemed to be the largest place. What we're going to do is we're going to have an ongoing thing from 6 to 10, and we're hoping that people will just kind of come in, mingle around, have a snack, have a drink, have a laugh, and then just flow out as they get tired of being with us. And that way, hopefully, everybody can make their way through. We are going to have a brief presentation ceremony, and that will be commencing at about 8 o'clock. And what we want to do is we've prepared some plaques that we just want to give to the various organizations that we're honoring, and then let the leaders of the you know, these various organizations come up and, you know, give a 2 or 3 minute spiel on maybe tell a funny story, or you know, talk about some of the guys' adventures throughout this.
So starting at 6, people are welcome to start. The volunteers are welcome to start showing up, and
That's right.
And they'll be serving up till 10. Is it like a buffet that you?
It's going to be a buffet. It's going to be you know, real simple foods like, you know, chicken wings and meatballs, and I believe a sandwich platter and some salads, and they'll have punch, and, you know, the VFW has a bar, so, you know, anyone interested in any alcoholic beverages will be able to you know, take advantage of that. And that's pretty much what we're going to do, and hopefully the food will just keep coming. I think we gave them a tentative number of 300 people, but you know, the more we spoke with the various organizations and got rough head counts, we're seeing that could be anywhere between 400 and 500 now. So this is really important, and we're hoping that the organizations that were furnished with the letters will get back to us so we can give them, as accurate as we can account of who will be coming.
Well, I would suggest that I'm sure they can't go out and personally contact all these people, so maybe these people, as humble as they might be and saying, well, I don't want to do it, they should be contacting the fire department or the shelter and saying, yeah, I will be going. And if there's any doubt in your mind whether you're invited to this, chances are you're invited.
Chances are you are invited. I know that Celine Paquette here in the agency had made reference to a comment that Donald Guerin from the county legislator had made that there are actually 76,000 volunteers involved with this, and I believe that represents the population of Clinton County. And I don't think that's stretching it. I mean, I live in the village of Rouse's Point, and just in my little neighborhood, the 6-7 houses around me, I could just see, just people helping everywhere. Simple things, a ride to the store for someone that couldn't get out, whatever, an offer, if it gets cold tonight, come on over, I got a wood stove in the garage, So, in all actuality, there were 76,000, volunteers. Even letting people make phone calls. I mean, the things we take for granted, but you've been there, you know that.
Yeah, I was the phone for a while, running a message from back and forth from one area to another, It's tough, our lines of communication break down.
Yeah. So, again, people, make someone aware that you want to be there. If you can't get a hold of the leader of one of these organizations, which again, did we mention the individual fire departments? Would you be Rouse's Point, Champlain, Shazy, Moores, and West Shazy, or the shelters? Contact the chamber, 297-3040. There's a live voice to take your call. We'll make sure that you're included. Again, our biggest fear is that someone will be left out, and it won't be because we try to get to everybody. Interestingly enough, there was a gentleman operating a ham radio down at the village of Champlain, and I guess these guys were instrumental in keeping contact with the outside world. We want to make sure these guys are there, and I think that they've been approached, so hopefully they all will be there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Al Haggett you're referring
Al
to.
Haggett, yes.
I ran into him at the Champlain shelter at the Legion, and he said his own personal one got torn down with all the ice, but he was, opening up those lines of communication because, as you're well aware, in many parts of the world where they're suddenly isolated, the ham radio operators are the only ones that sometimes get the message out as to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you think back to the Gulf War, the ham radio operators were getting word out on what was happening inside.
Yeah, interestingly enough, a couple weeks after things started getting back in order up here, in Rouse's Point anyways, again, because I live there, I was down at Doc Graphics, which is basically houses a chamber office. Dave Supernaw had a receiver for a ham radio, and I could still hear guys talking up in, like, Quebec, talking about the storm. And, I mean, these guys were still dealing with it. They were talking about the number of trees, the number of lines that were still down around them. And, I mean, it's just sad. I mean, but I could see just from that little interaction what a major role these guys had and are continuing to have up there.
Bill, we've been interrupted because a battery died, and we out-talked that battery.
It's not hard to do with you, Calvin.
You were just mentioning the Canada when we were so rudely interrupted, but I think another point that we mentioned off camera that we want to point out here is the fact that this dinner is honoring the unpaid volunteers. There are so many people whose jobs brought them out there and they worked above and beyond the call of duty. And again, just like you can't help the other departments that are outside of your jurisdiction, you have to make a cutoff somewhere, and explain that.
Yeah, well, that was something, again, we were faced with. Initially we got talk, initially it was just going to be a general thing, and then we started looking, wow, all the people from NYSEG that were up here from, various other communities, as well as the other municipalities that were helping each municipal crew, it just got to be a staggering number. And the contention was that, indeed, the people that we are honoring now are truly volunteers. As much as we'd like to include the municipal crews and the NYSEG guys, they were getting paid pretty handsomely. Most of these, I know some of these guys were, working 20 hours a day and double time, and it's a shame that we can't. Maybe that's something that can be contemplated in the future. Maybe some kind of big summer bash where we could have it outside and where numbers are not a problem for us. But so we want to focus on the volunteers, as you said, the people that are not only doing this during the storm, but the people that are manning the volunteer fire departments every day, year in, year out, that may not get more recognition than an annual dinner at whatever level to honor them. These guys are in our lives every day, and just like the phone that we took for granted, I think we probably take a lot of things for granted.
You call that 911 and you know they're going to show up.
That's right. That's right. And just on a personal note, my son, my 18-month-old son, he likes phones, so to speak. And Saturday morning, he went to his favorite perch and picked up his favorite phone and started pounding the dial tone. And I got on the portable to talk to him about that. And someone broke in and said, "Is this a 911 emergency?" And I said, "No, it's not. My son's playing with the phone." And the man informed me that he would have to call off the state police from responding. So they're out there.
Well, you got to teach them to push the other buttons instead of that one. But again, this is not to diminish the effort that the municipal employees put in, because they did so much and worked so long that. But again, you have to draw the line somewhere, and this is for the unpaid volunteers that were out there.
I'm sure I haven't seen the list of that every department will be furnishing with, but I am sure that there are several of these people that are serving in a dual capacity. I'm sure that several guys on the municipal crew in Rouse's Point are affiliated with the fire department as well, or their wives with the Ladies Auxiliary.
Or firefighters themselves.
Or firefighters themselves, yes. So
we can't forget that women are also EMTs and firefighters.
That's right. That's right. And we've in the letter that we sent to the various organizations, we have encouraged them that spouses are invited and encouraged to come, because I just want to reiterate, there is someone at home base holding things together when mom or dad is out there helping people pump basements or doing ambulance calls, whatever. There has to be someone at home base keeping things going, and we got to honor those people too.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing I can think of, other than the fact that, again, just to mention again, this is taking place February 21st at the VFW, located between Champlain and Moores on Route 11. The Chamber looks forward to seeing everybody and anybody that wants to show up. Please get back to us, those people that were furnished with a letter, and give us an idea of an accurate head count so we can order appropriately. And we look forward to seeing you all there. And I want to thank Hometown Cable for giving us this opportunity to get the word out yet one more time.
Okay, just one final thought, Bill. If some of these volunteers who aren't necessarily members of the fire department or EMTs have trouble getting a hold of those fire departments, can they call the chamber direct?
They can call the chamber direct. The chamber number is 297-3040, and there's usually a live body sitting right there to answer the phone. If not, they can simply leave a message and their call will be returned.
All right, very easy number to remember. It's in Rouse's Point, 297. 30 is my age, 40 is Bill's age. And
Just about.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Calvin.